one thing I want to talk about is that usually you're racing on a 12.6, and you're a bit more open water racing, aren't you, as well? And because the line with the ISA and that sort of stuff. Today you're on a 14-foot, and it was a flat water board, so the sprint. Really, what for the guys out there? What is the difference between sort of a sprint dedicated flat water board to a more all-round sort of Starboard all-star board?
Well, to be honest, I think with the sort of open water boards I'm normally used to, that they can sort of take the bumps a little bit easier, a bit more comfortable in the bumps. Whereas with the flat water, usually they're just dedicated to going in a straight line, So they're just straight line speed is really where they come into their own.
So do they track much easier? As in paddle changing, you don't need to do it so much.
Yeah, they literally just keep a straight line, Whereas the open water boards, they sort of move around a little bit more. But I think just where you're standing on them as well, you can stand nice and far forward on them, and they literally just keep a nice straight line.
Yeah. And so when you're standing on a board, on the flat water, where are you looking to tune it? You want the full length of the board in the water, or what's?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking at that nose and just trying to make sure, obviously, the more water it pushes, that's really not what you want. You want it sort of planing really nicely and sort of as much of the board in the water as you can, really.
Yeah. But not too much, so it starts.
It's sort of a happy medium. You can almost like tell sometimes when you start to get a little bit too far forward, it starts to push a little bit more water over the bow of the board. Whereas if you kind of get it perfect, it just a little bit off the sides, and that's what you're kind of looking for.
Yeah,
really.
and I suppose you said you just get the feel of it.
That's right.
And so, what about like the widths and stuff? Because obviously, there's some races on the that you race against in the international scene, really narrow boards, aren't they? What's the sort of advantage or disadvantage of a narrow board over a wider board?
Well, I found this year with the open water boards, I've gone a little bit wider than I have done in the past. I've gone back up to 25, and that's purely really the starts are so important there. You just don't want to be any sort of wobble at the start. You really want a clean start where you get you're paddling as hard as you can with the full power. The difference with the flat water board is you can go a little bit narrower, especially the starboards with the the sort of sunken decks. You can go narrower because they are generally more stable. Today I was using the 14 by 23. 23, which you'd think that's narrow, and that's going to be tippy, but it's surprisingly not. It does roll, but it gets to a point where it actually can hold itself on the rail, and then it won't go any further. So it's actually quite nice, really. Yeah.
So we reviewed the All Star, which is a bit more, even more dramatic, let's say, in the rails, is it, than the sprint?
Yeah.
Which I suppose, in effect, that slows it down a little bit, is it? The sprint is it generally a bit flatter and a bit more?
Yeah. It is. It literally is a flat bottom, really. To be honest, mine's got a couple of little grooves where you stand on your feet, so a little couple of bumps. I'm not really sure what they're for, to be honest, but what I know is that the V on the bottom of the board is actually further back on this one.
Okay.
And the rails are obviously pretty, sharp, so it's literally just going, straight line speed, really.
And obviously, so there's a big difference if you stand on an All-Star compared to a sprint. That you've noticed there's a big difference, and the main big differences are, like you're saying, it's stability.
Yeah, stability's a lot better with the the sunken deck, and it just feels faster, to be honest. They're meant for.
And on the turns?
Turns, to be honest, a little bit harder with the turns. It's really hard to get your foot back, far enough over that fin, because the fins are, set fairly back anyway on both boards. But because of how narrow it comes in, and obviously the sharp rails and sunken deck, you can't actually get your foot back far enough to be able to get it over the fin and be able to do like a pivot turn like we normally do. So it's a kind of a different technique, really, with the turn, but. It's hard, I would say.
And for the guys, about fins, the further back the fin board goes, the straighter line the board's going to go in, isn't it? Which is why the sprint is so geared up for that.
Yeah, that's
straight
right.
Back fin, isn't it?
Yeah, it's set really far back. I guess with the All-Star, you would use it in more BOP sort of style racing, I guess, a little bit of bump, because you're looking to get your back foot over that fin, so you can do pivot turns. They're quicker, really. You need to be doing quick turns, because the pace is constantly changing in the BOPs. But these sort of flat water races we here at the Battle of the Thames today is it's a lot of straight straight sections of it, and you just want to be going as fast as you can,
fast as possible, and just focusing on get the hammer down and going.
That's right, yeah, get a nice rhythm and give it a good go. Yeah.
Good luck with the rest of the season, and I look good to see the Starboards are working really well for you this year.
Yeah, I'm really pleased with them. So great.
Good luck. Keep charging.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.